Andrew Carnegie once made a statement that still feels provocative today. To die rich is a disgrace. In a world where wealth is often seen as the ultimate proof of success, Carnegie challenged that belief head-on. He viewed money not as a personal trophy, but as a social responsibility. Earning wealth was only the first chapter. Giving it back wisely was the real mission. From building libraries to supporting education and culture, Carnegie turned private fortune into public value. His life forces a hard question for modern society: is wealth the final goal of life, or merely a tool to create something greater than ourselves? Today, we talk about a man who became incredibly rich, yet believed that keeping wealth until death was a moral failure. This is the story of Andrew Carnegie, and a quiet but powerful idea that true success means knowing when to give, and knowing how to let go. Andrew Carnegie is often remembered as the King of Steel, one of the richest men the modern world had ever known. His name became a symbol of industrial power, efficiency, and massive wealth. But behind that public image lived a man who held a belief that many people still find uncomfortable even today. He believed that dying rich was a disgrace. Not because money itself was bad, and not because success should be rejected, but because wealth, in his eyes, carried a deep moral responsibility. To understand why he reached such a conclusion, we need to slow down and walk through his life carefully, from the earliest days of hardship, through extreme success, and finally to a stage of deliberate giving. Carnegie was born into poverty so deep that it shaped his entire worldview. He entered the world in a small town in Scotland, in a family that did not even have enough money to afford medical help at his birth. The house he grew up in was tiny, with only 2 rooms. On the ground floor, his father worked as a handloom weaver, struggling to survive in an era where machines were slowly replacing human labor. Upstairs, the family shared a cramped, dark space where they slept, ate, and lived their daily lives. There was no sense of security, no expectation that life would become easier, and no safety net waiting beneath them. When the family decided to leave Scotland and move to America, it was not an adventure driven by optimism. It was an act of necessity. His mother became the backbone of the household, working endlessly by washing clothes and repairing shoes for other families. Some days she worked 16 or even 18 hours without rest. Young Andrew watched all of this silently. He saw exhaustion, humility, and sacrifice long before he ever saw success. One image stayed with him for the rest of his life. It was his mother working late into the night, her hands tired, her body worn down, simply so that her son could wear a clean shirt to school the next morning. That image planted something deep inside him. It created a powerful sense of responsibility, gratitude, and determination that never left him. As a boy, Carnegie made a promise to his mother. He told her that one day he would become rich so she could live in comfort, wear fine clothes, have people to help her, and ride in her own carriage. This was not a casual wish. It became a personal vow. And later in life, he honored it in an extraordinary way. He chose not to marry until his mother passed away, even though he was already 52 years old by that time. For Carnegie, success was never just about himself. It was tied to loyalty, duty, and memory. What makes his rise even more interesting is that it did not come from technical brilliance. Many people assume that Carnegie mastered steel production, but the truth is very different. He openly admitted that he did not know how to make steel. Thousands of workers under his leadership understood the process far better than he ever did. His true strength lay elsewhere. He had a rare ability to understand people, to organize talent, and to inspire cooperation. This skill appeared early in his childhood. Once, he caught several baby rabbits but had no food to feed them. Instead of giving up, he made a simple proposal to the neighborhood children. If they brought vegetables to feed the rabbits, he would name each rabbit after them. The children eagerly agreed. Years later, Carnegie applied the same understanding of human motivation in business. He named his largest steel mill after a powerful railroad executive, not by chance, but to honor the man and build goodwill. That single gesture helped secure strong business relationships and long-term success. Carnegie also believed deeply in self-education. His formal schooling lasted only a few years, but his learning never stopped. When he worked as a messenger earning almost nothing, he spent nights teaching himself Morse code. That effort allowed him to become a telegraph operator and double his income. He lived by a principle that guided his entire life. If you want to become a certain kind of person, you must act as if you already are that person. As his wealth increased, his relationship with money began to change. Instead of feeling more attached to it, he became more reflective. He started to see wealth not as a destination, but as a phase. In his view, making money was only the first half of life's responsibility. The second half was far more important. It was about distributing that wealth in a way that truly benefited society. This belief led him to declare that dying rich was a disgrace. What he meant was not that wealth should be rejected, but that hoarding it until death was a moral failure. Carnegie believed that wealthy individuals were not true owners of their fortunes. They were temporary managers. Society allowed them to accumulate wealth so they could later return it in a form that created lasting value. Because he had lived through poverty, he understood what actually helped people rise. He did not believe that simply giving money away solved the problem. He believed in providing tools, knowledge, and opportunity. That belief is why education became the center of his philanthropy. Over the course of his life, Carnegie gave away approximately $365 million, a staggering amount at the time. He used much of it to build public libraries across the world. These libraries were open to everyone, regardless of social status. To Carnegie, a library represented dignity. It allowed individuals to educate themselves, just as he had done when he was young. He also invested heavily in universities, research institutions, and pension funds for teachers. He understood that supporting educators and researchers created long-term benefits that no single donation could match. Even though he did not follow a specific religion, he donated thousands of pipe organs to churches because he respected the role of music and spiritual life in strengthening communities. Some of his most touching acts of generosity were small and personal. He once paid off the debt of an elderly woman in Scotland so she could reclaim her home, simply because she reminded him of his mother. These moments reveal something essential about Carnegie. His generosity was not driven by public image or guilt. It came from empathy and memory. Carnegie was part of a broader generation of industrial leaders who shared similar values. John D. Rockefeller gave enormous sums to medical research and public health, helping fight diseases around the world. James Buchanan Duke devoted much of his wealth to building a major university. Henry Ford focused on making products affordable so ordinary people could benefit from industrial progress. What these men shared was a pattern. They began with very little. They worked with relentless discipline. They reinvested their profits instead of chasing luxury. And eventually, they shifted their focus from accumulation to contribution. Money became a tool, not a source of identity. Carnegie believed that wealth should serve life, not control it. He warned that money could easily become a burden if held too tightly. True peace, he believed, came from knowing that your resources had been used to help others grow. By the time Carnegie reached the end of his life, he no longer carried the weight of unused wealth. He had transformed it into libraries, schools, music, and opportunity. He died calm and fulfilled, not because he had been rich, but because he had learned how to let go. His life leaves us with a quiet question. What is success really for? Is it simply about how much we can gather, or about what we choose to return to the world? Carnegie's answer was clear. Wealth finds its highest meaning when it stops being about us. And perhaps that is why his legacy still matters today. Not as a lesson about steel or business, but as a reminder that the true measure of a life is not what it holds at the end, but what it releases along the way.